Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Transcendent. Transcendent is the weekly radio broadcast of SABWB. You're watching me as I go through a couple things here. I need to make sure with my producer that I'm on air. I don't see me at all. There we go. Okay. All right. So we were having user difficulty here, but we're straight. We're back. We're on track. This is Transcendent. This is a weekly Facebook broadcast of San Antonio in black, white, and brown, also known as SABWB. What is SABWB, you ask? Thank you for asking. It is a leadership space, a virtual and an actual leadership space where influencers from every race and position and perspective converge for two purposes. One is to build trusting relationships with one another, to discover our sense of uniqueness and value and build trust, and then to collaborate both on the value and the implementation of principles that shape the culture. Did you catch those last three words? Shape the culture. Ultimately, SABWB desires to be a culture shaping force in the city of San Antonio and to prove that we can, in fact, move the culture of the city in a direction of unity, in a direction of godliness, in a direction of purpose as it is given to us as a people in the city of San Antonio, and thereby enhance the culture for everyone in the city. As we do that together, and see that the proof is in the pudding of San Antonio, then we, with particular nuances of given metropolitan areas, can take this to metropolitan centers around the country, even around the world, as we learn to shift the directional flow of things with a sense of destiny and purpose in mind. Those things that God has laid forth principally in His Word, because He's already spoken to us about those things. He's already given us examples in His Word of how cities and nations even can be shifted. So we're putting it to work here at SABWB, along with the host of leaders in all the spheres of influence across our city. By the spheres of influence, I mean spheres, mountains, uh, uh, segments of society, however you want to name them. Those forces within the culture that combined to make up the culture itself. And there are leaders in there. There are ideas there that are driven by individuals that help set the sail for that given area. And it's those leaders and others within that sphere that we're calling together to work intentionally, purposely together to see God's purpose revealed in our city. And I'm so glad that this is our partnership month, by the way. March and October are SABWB partnership months, and you can be a partner with us for as little as $10 a month. You can do that by going to our website at sabwb.org. Follow a few simple prompts there at sabwb.org, and you become our partner. When you do, we want to give you some gifts because we love giving. We understand the power that is in giving, and we want to give you some gifts. And all of the gifts that you will get will come in this bag, this SABWB tote bag. It's a nylon bag, and it's good for a lot of things that you'll carry, perhaps to the convenience store and back. It's got reinforced corners on it and all that, and a tie rope so that you can hold it on your arm or tie it around your shoulder or whatever. Neat little tote bag. So when someone asks you what is SABWB, you tell them that's the leadership space here in San Antonio where influencers of every race, black, white, brown, red, yellow, all of them are coming together around the principles of the kingdom, and they're going to see how those principles can be integrated into the very life of our city. So it's a huge plus for you to be a partner, because I am. See, I just gave you your conversation speech right there as you become a partner with us with SABWB. And inside that tote, you're going to receive a couple of key items. One is this one. It's also embossed with SABWB, just to get as a conversation starter again, to give you the opportunity to start telling others about SABWB. To keep your cold drinks cold and your hot drinks hot too. And inside it, that gift package, yes, there's more. Two books. Leaders are readers, y'all, and readers are leaders. These two books actually was written in manuscript form in one volume by the late great Alan Vincent. I saw his precious wife Eileen on Facebook today. I was surprised and happy to see her face there. She is really the reason that we're here in this building. Both she and Alan have invested much in the city of San Antonio and made some investment in my own life personally, for which I'm eternally grateful to God. These books are, this first one chronologues how God used that team of Alan and Eileen Vincent to come out of their way of thinking. This is critical, to come out of their way of thinking. He was an engineer and she was a stay-at-home mother who prayed and sought God, and how God used them as a couple, what he taught them, what he walked Alan through, even some illness in his own body, and principles that God took him through to shape them into a couple that really shaped the nation of India, and then from there, other nations around the world. And then the second half of this reading duo is The Kingdom at War. It's actually a workbook of where we are right now. Those who aspire to see how to wage war in the unseen realm, how to effectively wage war in the realm of the unseen to bring about visible impact and effect. This is key for you. Some of you have never walked there. Some of you in the midst of it and don't know how to navigate those places that you're right now in. This will help you. And it all comes to you as a gift for your partnership with SABWB for $10 or more per month. But you can do it for as little as $10 a month. I believe in the power of the small donation, especially during our partnership month. You'll see outpouring missions and SABWB sending you reminders that this is your partnership month with us. And the last thing that you'll have in that gift package, is this cup. It also has SABWB on it, conversation starter. And at the bottom, it says shaping the culture through prayer and action. And this is what we are about doing. We're about shaping the culture of San Antonio through our prayers, our intercessory prayer. And you're going to see a commercial during the time that we're together tonight for the I Pray experience that invites you to join us right here in these offices every Friday from 10 to 11 live as we go after these things in prayer. Right now, we're praying through the gates, the 10 gates that were established in the book of Nehemiah, and for strategy as to how to rebuild those, how to purge the gates, take out the things that need to be taken out, and to reestablish the gates of the city. And if you're interested in involving yourself in this kind of spiritual warfare and prayer, then come be with us. This cup, however, I saved this to last because we are in the final stages now. The projection is that this month, the month of October, you and I will be sipping on premium organic coffee from Rwanda as SABWB and Be Easy Coffee. Be Easy Coffee is the company of my youngest daughter, Marcia, and her husband, Io. And my wife and I bought a hectare as well in Rwanda of coffee farms. And some partnerships will be forged between coffee you're buying and sipping on, and it's great coffee too. I'm not a coffee drinker, but I love this coffee, and I'm not just partial to it. I've had other people who also drink coffee. In fact, our roaster here in the city of San Antonio, he was so impressed by what he received, these rich African beans, that he says, I want to buy. I don't not want to roast from you. I also want to buy from you. So you are going to have the opportunity to do the same. Those of you who are coffee drinkers are really going to enjoy sipping Be Easy Coffee out of your SABWB cup. All of that comes to you, not the coffee, but all of the rest of the stuff comes to you as a part of your partnership with SABWB. And I want to take you to a commercial now where I'm actually standing in the coffee fields in Rwanda when I made this commercial. And those, I called them beans, but they're actually cherries. When they're in that form, they're called cherries. And after the cherries are dried and then the husk has fallen off of them and the processing goes on with them, then what's left is the beans. And the beans is what has been shipped here. So it's good for you to know that we have a harvest in the city already, and it's already in the hands of a roaster. A portion of it is in the hand of the roaster, and we have tasted the roasted coffee, and it is excellent. So those of you who are coffee drinkers, you look forward to that, becoming a partner, buying your coffee not from HEB or some. Of course, we anticipate and hope to see that you can go into the shelf at HEB and pick up a bag of Be Easy coffee. Or for those of you who are SABWB partners, we'll work something out that you can get yours right here at SABWB. So thank you for all of your partnership. Let's go to this commercial. And when I come back, I want to talk to you about what's happening in the world. Couple things. What's happening stateside? I'm actually going to do that last. So we're going to take a reducing circumference. We're going to start first in this global picture of what is happening in the nation of Israel as far as war is concerned, and what that means and why now. And then we're going to confine our constriction or circumference, confine it down to the state of Texas, and take a serious look at school choice battle, the special session that's started yesterday. And there are some actions that you need to take in order to push this school choice ball across the line. So I'm so grateful that you're with me tonight. So take the opportunity to join me on this particular commercial, and I'll be right back right after this. All right, I'm here in Rwanda, and we're up in the coffee farms right now. So I've been telling you about the upcoming Be Easy Coffee organic premium coffee. And these are beans that I have in my hand. These are brand new beans. There's already a harvest already in place. These are just the early parts of the second harvest. And these beds that you see that are now empty will be full of organic premium coffee beans. And you have an opportunity to get a bag of Be Easy coffee for yourself. And we're going to work, of course, as I said before, on the San Antonio blend for SABWB. You'll be able to get your coffee mug and sip premium organic coffee. I told you it was coming, and it's on the way. Okay. That has been a long haul, and the haul is not over, but we have made progress. Product is here in these United States of America, right here in the city of San Antonio, as I said, has been turned over to some roasters, and we're so thankful and so proud of what quality of coffee we have coming to you here in the city of San Antonio. And as you sip on your coffee, you'll also be supporting ministry. I want to say hello to Holly. Holly, I haven't seen you in a while, but thanks for jumping on tonight. Melba, thank you also. If you guys comment and share around the country, we simulcast to our YouTube channel and to my fan page and this page. All together, we're out there in the cyberspace world looking at Transcendent together. So I want to just take a little time right now to jump on this. What does it mean right now? Now I need you to engage with me here for a minute, because rather than just pass along news, and I'm certainly going to do some of that, I want you to understand some things. Let's look first in the book of 1 Chronicles chapter 12. 1 Chronicles chapter 12. And there's a particular verse I'm targeting in that chapter. And go with me there real quick. So what we have going on in chapter 12 of First Chronicles, uh, David's men at Ziklag. These are a collection of the people of Israel that is going to war. Uh, I see someone else on our YouTube channel is maybe my producer can tell me. I can see the remarks there, but I can't read them. What you're saying, because I want to give you a shout out here in a minute. But in First Chronicles chapter 12, David's men, these are warriors. These are people who have set themselves up, have risked their lives. They've signed on the dotted line as a serviceman or woman would do today, and they have set themselves to be the instrumentality through which God would bring peace and settle the inheritance that He had given unto David. And there are people from the tribes that are coming together. But in verse 32, one tribe in particular is named, and I want to just use a phrase there and kind of springboard from that phrase. Verse 32, First Chronicles chapter 12, verse 32. And the children of Issachar, which were men, listen to this, which were men that had understanding of the times. They were men that had understanding of the times to know what Israel ought to do. The heads of them were 200, and all their brethren were at their commandment. So the heads of the tribe of Issachar were 200 men, and all of their brethren, they were at their command because they knew that these guys understood the times. They understood what they were going through. Now, body of Christ, I'm going to try in the next very short segment that I have with you to help you understand something about the times that we're in, and therefore you can more accurately interpret. And even it says in verse 32 that because they understood the times, they also knew what Israel ought to do. Their actions were accurate because they understood the times. So what I'm going to try to do is, first of all, I'm not making any claim that I understand everything about the times. However, I am as certainly making a claim that I do understand some things about this time. And that's those things that I want to pass on to you. So let me just start right here by helping you understand that the Bible is a record of God's faithfulness from Genesis to Revelation. It's a record of God's faithfulness in terms of Him dealing with humanity on the earth. Now remember, humanity is only on the earth because God put them here. He formed man in Genesis 2:7 from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. In the last verse of Luke chapter 3, it says, is given the genealogy of Jesus, and it says in that last verse, and Seth, who was the son of Adam, who was the son of God. And Seth, who was the son of Adam, who was the son of God. So when God was creating man, He was not creating another mammal. When He was creating man, He was not creating another creature. He was creating a son. And Seth, who was the son of Adam, who was the son of God. God was creating a creature who could commune with Him. In fact, it says in the Genesis record that God walked with Adam in the cool of the day. This phrase typifies the height of their fellowship and unity, and in an unbroken relationship one with another. Sin was not introduced into the picture. Adam was not a thick, unibrowed guy that had a protruding jaw and his knuckles. This is what science would have you believe. Science would have you believe that because they don't want you to understand or know or believe that because you came from God as a human race, you're also accountable to God. That means your behavior and your actions, not only toward God, but toward each other, are also held in accountability. The world would be a better place if we understood that. But there are many who seek to uh, lead humanity away from that. Jessica, thanks for jumping on tonight as well. And you guys, as you like and comment and share, it helps get the logarithm out for everybody else to see them. So I'm in the midst of trying to build a context for some of the things that I want to say about the war that's happening in Israel right now. And some of you may be saying, what does all that have to do with the war? Well, just hang on. I'm gonna get there. In fellowship with God, this man was created, and God breathed into him the breath of Chaim. Actually, it's a Hebrew word. It's translated life in English, but it is plural in Hebrew. The breath of Chaim, the breath of lives. So you have all different kinds of life. You have, I say to my Faith Outreach Center family, you're not a cat. You don't have 9 lives, but you have different forms of life. You have bios or biology, or the physical life of the body, bloodstream, heartbeat, all that. Then you have soul life called psychikos. It is in the Greek. It is your mind, your emotions, your intellect, your will, your individuality as a person, the intangible part of you that needs this tangible body to operate in the world that you're set in. And then you have a spirit. That spirit, this is the ruach, Hebrew word for spirit, same word for wind. In the Greek word is the word pneuma. You have the life of God. You have this quality of life on the inside. The first man did. Had this quality of life on the inside of him, his spirit. Now, something tragically happened in Genesis 3. Man, out of an act of treason, separated himself from God, and therefore he became a child of the devil. Jesus said that in John 8. You are of your father, the devil, and it is the will of your father that you will do. So fallen humanity are the devil's kids. This is October. At the end of October, the 31st, is a time when the enemy encourages his children and everybody else's children to delve into and support the ideas and the concepts of witchcraft and all kinds of debauchery and murder and ritual that invokes demon powers and spirits, because that's what his children do. Now, none of the children of God should be involved in any of those things, but our culture many times have led us through our ignorance. It has led us into it. And we had fun getting candy and all that. But we didn't understand that our actions carried very serious consequences. So as humanity's trail is developed throughout the scripture, what we see is that God begins to manage the human experience on earth, and he manages them in such a way that the human species, can be aware of the motions that are taking place in the unseen world. The management tool that God gives to humanity through the nation of Israel is called the Moedim. The Moedim, the Moedim, the Moedim. In the Bible, it is called feast days or the feast of the Lord. It is times when, during the calendar year, when certain remembrances are to take place by the nation of Israel. And through those remembrances, a message is to go throughout the whole human race, giving some indication of what God is up to in the realm of the unseen. He gave us a door. He gave us portals doorways that we could look into and begin to understand the timing in the unseen world. But most people race past that. Most Christians race past that. Now, why do most Christians race past it? Largely because there has been an attempt in the religious world to separate Christianity from its Jewish roots. Christianity was started by Christ, Jesus. Christ was raised in the Jewish faith, and that Jewish faith that was handed down from the time of Genesis 12, when God communicates with Abram, and later changes his name to Abraham, his son Isaac and his son Jacob, and of course Jacob's name was changed to Israel, and those 12 sons, and one of those 12 sons is Judah, and out of the tribe of Judah comes Jesus. So our lineage is tied spiritually to Abraham. Romans 4 will bear that out. And through the loins of Abraham and the tribe of Judah come Jesus Christ. With them, with that line of people, came the knowledge of the Moedim. The knowledge of the Moedim. Now, there are a number of feasts. In fact, the Bible, let's look quickly at 3 of them. It all has very serious bearing on what is happening in the world right now. But again, because systematically, the church has been moved away from the knowledge of these things, and we have relegated them as Old Testament antiquities. They're things that stood as type and shadow in the Old Testament. But the New Testament has come. Jesus himself is the mediator of a better covenant established upon better promises. All of that is true. However, if we overlook, or if we don't look at what the Old Testament types are showing us about Jesus and about the covenant, about the new covenant, and about this life, then we can live in oblivience to those things and be unaware of the timing that's happening right now. Why did Israel declare war now? Why did Hamas attack Israel on a holy day now? Why did that happen? Now, I'm going to, as much as I want to delve into these things with you tonight, I don't have forever to do that. I'm going to pick this up tomorrow night in our midweek service at Faith Outreach Center International. And I'm going to break this down more. I started it on this past Sunday morning, but I want to try to sense you in on some of these things, particularly how the feast play into the war that's happening right now. So let me just tell you a real Reader's Digest kind of portion of what I talked about this past Sunday to catch you up. Way back in Genesis chapter 2, the first verse of Genesis 2, God establishes something called the Sabbath. The Sabbath. Let's take a look at Genesis chapter 2, verse number 1. Genesis chapter 2, verse number 1. And the heavens and the earth were finished. Now that's a very important word. The heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the 7th day, God ended his work, which he had made, and he rested on the 7th day from all his works which he had made. And God blessed the 7th day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. Now, did you notice the repetition in those verses? Seventh day, seventh day, seventh day. When there is an echo of something in the scriptures, when there's echo of something in the script itself, it warrants your attention. Let's look at quickly at some features in these verses that point out some things about this seventh day. The first verse, chapter 2, verse 1, says that God finished. Now, let's take note of who finished. It says God finished. There are some attributes about God that is important for you to take note of, because when God finishes, it's finished. God is omnipotent. He's all powerful. So there's none that can turn the counsel of God. There's none that can stop him. When he sets to do something, none can make him not do it. And the God who is omnipotent finished. He finished. No more needs to be done in order for God's plan to be worked out in the world, in the universe, in the realms of the seen and in the realms of the unseen. Nothing else needs to happen because God has finished it already. Now, please understand, this will help you as a believer. It'll help you in these days that we're right now in. God is not working from the position of beginnings. God is working from the position of having finished. Time and eternity. It's almost a misnomer that can only be ascribed to an omnipotent and an omniscient being, that eternity itself in God is finished. Eternity itself is finished. God operates from a point of having finished eternity. Well, someone will say, if eternity is finished, then it's not eternity. Because finished means an ending. In one sense, finished means an ending. In another sense, finished means all of the activity in eternity has already been completed in the mind of God. And that omniscient mind will roll on and on and on and on and on for eternity according to what he has already finished. Eternity itself is finished in the mind of God. This is huge, people. And I'm trying to plug you into God's finished work has impact and is having impact on the news right now. In fact, in this portion tonight, we jumped on a little late, so I have really about a half hour left. I want to show you how God's finished work is even showing up in secular news broadcasts. So I want to show that to you. I'm just dealing with this word here, finished now. Obviously, people, come on. Let's just go. Let's go. Finish. And so because he's omniscient, he's finished. Because he's omnipotent, he is finished. Here's what I want to say lastly with this point. Therefore, because God is finished, God has already thought through. He has already thought through any decision that free-willed man could make, and any decision that the host of darkness through free-willed man could make, and any decision that is created angelic hosts could make, and any decision that creatures that exist within realms we know nothing about, anything they could do, none of it would disrupt or deter God's finished work. Now, he has to be God to make such a statement. He has to be God. What you and I learn to do as the people of God, what we learn to do as believers, we learn to live in his finished work. This is what Hebrews chapter 4 is about. Hebrews chapter 4 is about you and I entering into his rest. It goes on to say in Hebrews 4 that the children of Israel didn't enter into his rest because of their unbelief. They couldn't believe that God's finished everything. Not when all of this is falling apart around us. You remember Gideon in Judges, the 6th chapter? The angel appeared unto him, and Gideon is threshing wheat behind the winepress. All this stuff getting stuck in his beard because you're supposed to winnow in the wind, so that the wind takes the grain falls to the ground, and the wind takes the chaff and blows it away. But he's behind the wine press, little wind getting back there, some stuff is falling down, and then the chaff is getting all stuck in his hair and his beard. And an angel shows up and calls him a man of great valor. And here's what Gideon's response was. Oh my God, that's what he said. That's what he said in the scripture, Judges 6. Oh my God, if you're with us, then why all of this? Where are the miracles? I want to assure you tonight, God is finished. Eternity itself is finished in the mind of God. And nothing and no one has the capacity to disrupt the finished will of the Almighty. So now that's just the first word, finish. I'm dealing really with this other word that is repeated in this verse: seventh day, seventh day. Numbers are important in Scripture. So there's a 7-day week, and at the end of that 7-day week, 6 days, he says in Exodus 20, 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. And in the 7th day, the Sabbath day, hallow that day, because it is sanctified unto God. It is a remembrance. The Sabbath is a remembrance that God has finished. The Sabbath is a remembrance that I can rest in him. I can count on him. Please, saints of God, hear me tonight. I can rest in him. I can count on him. I can rely on. That's what the Sabbath says. Just as there is a Sabbath at the end of the week, there's also an annual Sabbath. You'll find this in Leviticus chapter 25, the first 5 verses of Leviticus chapter 25. For time's sake, I'm not going to go there with you, but at the end of 6 years, on that 7th year, the land shall rest. There's a Hebrew word for that. It is the word Shemitah. Shemitah. The word, the term Shemitah is taken from Deuteronomy, the 15th chapter, verses 1 and 2, and it talks about the Lord's release. It is the Lord's release. Oh, you need to hear me. 6 years. Let me let you put your eyes on it. It's probably a good idea. Probably a good idea. Leviticus, the 25th chapter. Leviticus chapter 25, verses 1 through 6. And the Lord spake unto Moses in Mount Sinai, speaking to the children of Israel, and saying to them, when you come into the land which I give you, then shall the land keep a Sabbath unto the Lord. 6 years, verse 3. 6 years thou shalt sow thy field, and 6 years thou shalt prune thy vineyard, and gather in the fruit thereof. But in the seventh year shall be a Sabbath of rest unto the land. God wants the land, humankind, to respond in kind to the land. Let me just jump out here real quick and say that there are some people, some cultures that are much more sensitive to the land. The American Indian, for example, was very sensitive to the land, overly sensitive. Some of them even worshiped the land. But they had this sense that nature, that the earth itself was alive. They had this sense that they were in an exchange with nature. They went too far. They sacrificed to the nature, but they were right in the sense that they're vitally connected to it. Did you know that 70% of the earth is water? Did you know that 70% of your body is water? Did you know that the nutrients in your body have all come from the earth? There is a vital living connection between you and the earth. And God says, I want you to rest. He says that over in Exodus chapter 6. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. And in the seventh day, rest. He says right here, 6 years the land is going to work. And in the seventh year, let it rest. Why? The Sabbath is always a reminder that God is in control. The Sabbath is a reminder that what I have from God. It has not come by the works of my hands. It has come because God has blessed the work of my hand. That the earth has yielded her fruit. In fact, this exchange between humankind and the earth is much spoken about in the Word of God. It talks about even when Adam sinned. Y'all, help me here. Help me now. When Adam sinned, it says, the earth brought forth briars and thorns and thickets. The earth responded to this man's condition. Okay, so you see there is a sleep cycle that you and I have 24 hours. There's at the end of the week, there is a Sabbath rest. Now you see in the Leviticus 25 that there's also an annual rest at the end of 6 years. The seventh year, the land is to lay fallow. Because again, it is an evident that that you're saying to God, yes, Lord, all of this has come from you. Yes, Lord, I trust you. Yes, Lord. Somebody said, well, you can't. They asked this question right here in the Bible. If we can't sow in the 6th year, what are we going to eat? God says, I'm going to give you in the 6th year a triple harvest. You will have enough in the 6th year to last you for 3 years. If you'll trust me. You know, Chick-fil-A does that. Chick-fil-A trusts that on that 7th day, they don't need to open their shop. That they'll make enough. When they, by our own corrupt city government, was pushed out of a contract. Yeah, I said it. Our own corrupt city government pushed them out of a contract at the airport. When the numbers came in, In 6 days, Chick-fil-A made much more than all of the other applicants by far. Why? Because God blessed them. They adhered to God's word. They understood something about God's economy. They understood something about how God works in the realm of the unseen. And they agreed with it. And they put their business policy in line with it. Folks, listen to me. Kathy, thanks for joining. Melba, thanks for looking. Sylvia, thanks for joining tonight. There is a bunch of stuff that you and I need to be clued into so that we walk with God. So rest for the body, rest for the week, rest every 7th year. And every 7th year is a Shemitah year. So I asked you to go to Deuteronomy earlier. Let's go there now. Deuteronomy chapter number 15. Deuteronomy chapter 15. And let's look at verses 1 and 2. These two verses tell us something about this year of release, or this Shemitah year. The word release in Hebrew is the word Shemitah, 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 and it means release. What is to be released? That's a good question. Let's look at it. At the end of every 7 years, thou shalt make a release, and this is the manner of the release. This is important right here. Every creditor that lendeth aught unto his neighbor shall release it. If he shall not exact it, shall release it. He shall not exact it of his neighbor or his brother, because it is called the Lord's release. Of a foreigner thou mayest exact it again, but that which is thine with thy brother, thine hand shall release. So the year of release dealt with economics. It dealt with also with, because the land lay fallow that year, it also dealt with production. It dealt with consumption. And God says, you walk before me, your land, your life is going to be, you're going to be rested. You're in your body, you rest. At the end of the week, on the Sabbath, you're reminded again of the rest. At the end of every 7 years, you're reminded of the rest. God's taking care of you. So there is a harmony between you and God. The person who refuses to do so is in effect saying to God, I don't trust you. I got to work this out myself. Even the Jews did themselves. They finagled a way around it on the basis of this second verse, where it says, Deuteronomy 15. It says, he shall not exact it of his neighbor or of his brother, because it is the Lord's release. But verse 3, of a stranger thou mayest exact it again. So they started thinking, so then this release of the thing of the land has to do with what the land that belongs to Jews belongs to us. So we had let our lands lay fallow. We're going to trust God. But they got greedy, and they finagled a way around it. Here's how they got around it. They said, we'll sell our land for 1 year to a non-Jew. That way the land is no longer in Jewish hands, it's in non-Jewish hands, and we can continue to work it like we've always done, and we'll get the money and the gain off of it. But it's not ours, it's that Gentiles for that year. Human nature, man. Just trying to find some way to not demonstrate trust, and to to exercise avarice and greed. And as a result of it, the land itself began to spew them out. In fact, God told them, when I bring you into the land of Canaan, Land is not your own. Actually, the people, the inhabitants of that land have so polluted it that the land is spewing them out. The land is throwing them up. And when you go into the land, do what I'm telling you with the land, lest the land also spit you out. So we've seen people, nations of people corrupt themselves. Unfortunately, our nation, America, is no different in this regard. I think it is somewhat different, but in many ways it is not different. The blood of nearly 60, somewhere between 60 and 65 million children, the blood of innocent children from the womb, pollutes the drains of this nation. Human trafficking continues to this day. Every man is cutting his neighbor's throat in order to get ahead. And the land itself is beginning to, get these people off of me. It's a sad day, but here's the wonderful lining. God deals with the nation of Israel, particularly in the Shemitah years, so you can actually judge how God deals with human races based on how they did with the land. When the children of Israel for 70, 10 of these cycles of 7 years, 70 years, did not obey God's command, God says, okay, you're going into captivity. I'm going to allow your enemies to come in and overthrow you, and you're going to be held in captivity. Guess for how long? Jeremiah the prophet tells them, because you didn't let the land rest for the same time period that you did not let it rest, for that time of the Sabbaths, you're going into captivity. And at the end of those 70 years, I'm going to judge the nation that I allowed to come take you. So although Babylon didn't believe in anything, they had nothing to do with God, didn't know anything about the Moedim, they were affected by it. Because Israel were only going to stay in their captive clutches for 70 years. And after that, God was going to bring them out. Actually, Babylon actually fell within those 7 years. The Medo-Persian Empire overtook Babylon. Babylon fell because of the Shemitah. Now, here's what I want to say to you. We are in a season right now where we have again come to the end of this cycle of times. I'm going to break this down more on Wednesday, because I don't have time to do it tonight. Where at the end of these 7 cycles of Shemitah is 49 years. 7 times 7 is 49. At the end of those 49 years is the year of Jubilee, which is also spoken about in the same passage in the book of Leviticus, right close to them, is the Jubilee year. Is the Jubilee year. And I'm gonna be speaking about that tomorrow. So you guys, Jessica and Daryl, man of God, I'm glad you're watching tonight. So here we are. We're at this cycle now. We're at the end of this Shemitah year. This year right now, 2023, ends with a 7th cycle, and we enter into a Jubilee season. And in Jubilee, certain things happen to the nation of Israel. Because they have such enemies in the world, they go to war. Most readily for us, we can see it historically in the Yom Kippur War. Again, the enemies of Israel attacked them on the highest holy day of their calendar, Yom Kippur. And God, through a president, our president, who really had no affinity for the Jewish people, but he was set there by God for that time. And he released to the Jewish people all of the armament and all of the munitions and all of the tanks that they needed to turn back their enemies that wanted to drive them into the sea. And at the end of that period, Israel gained territory. Here we are at the end of another time of Shemitah years, 49 years. 49 years since the last time, since 73. They're now entering into war again. Now, this war has, however, has serious implications because it could spread. Israel is defended by the United States and our president, as incapable as he is, and the people around him. Clearly, Joe Biden is not running the country. He doesn't have the mental acuity. He doesn't have the stamina. He doesn't have the fortitude. He doesn't have the clarity of mind enough to be running the country. Somebody is running the country behind him. There are some names out there as to who that might be. One, our former president, before Donald Trump was Obama, President Obama. It has been noise that he's puppeteering Biden, who was his vice for 8 years. Clearly, he's not running the country. President Biden is not capable to handle these issues. He's being propped up. But so far, he has made every effort. Out of his mouth, this administration speaks out of two sides of their mouth. Here's what I mean. A deal that they made with the Iran nuclear deal. As a part of that deal, the U.S. gave Iran $6 billion. They traded persons for persons in terms of prisoners, and they gave them to boot $6 billion. Iran is the organization and the nation that funds Hamas. All of Hamas's equipment, all of its armament is supplied to them by Iran. Hamas, just a couple of days ago, sent all of these missiles into Israel, many of which the Iron Dome, which is a defense system that both Israel and the United States worked out and developed, is called the Iron Dome. It has the ability to both detect launched missiles coming in its direction and the ability to knock them out of the sky. The Iron Dome caught, at my last notification, about 90% of those bombs that were released by Hamas into Israel. And yet many of them broke through and killed many. Paratroopers dropping down out of the sky with machine guns, peppering people to death with bullets and ammunition sprays. So violent was this act that Israel, who's not unaccustomed to being attacked by their hostile neighbors, but so violent and so ruthless was this attack that they did not just send armament, they actually declared war. Why now, Prime Minister Netanyahu? Why now? Do you think that a whole nation of capable, really studied rabbis don't understand the times? You think they don't have an understanding of the times and to know what Israel ought to do? Every time you step out in that, there is a risk. Um, the United States has rushed to the aid of Israel at this moment out of one side of its mouth. On one side of its mouth, it supplied the $6 billion to Hamas to do this with through this Iran-Contra deal. And on the other side of his mouth, he's saying, we stand behind Israel. Really? So what's up now? Here's what I foresee. Certain things are going to happen. And I hope that the less of the scenarios that I'm going to give you is actually the case. Because Israel has said that if we can, through our intelligence, validate that Iran has put up these terrorists in our southern border in Gaza, have put them up to do this, we're going to strike Iran, and it won't be a slap on the hand. If we can validate that they are responsible for the slaughter of women and children and old people, and they were not going after military sites. Hamas was killing civilians, and Israel, when it went into Gaza, had the forethought to tell the inhabitants of Gaza, get out, we're coming in, get out. They did no such thing, and Hamas did no such thing in Israel. They didn't tell anybody. In fact, they went in to kill civilians. And Israel returns its in defense of its own existence. In doing so, it tells the people of Gaza, Palestinians, get out of there, because we are coming in, and we're coming in after Hamas, and we're coming in after their leadership. You guys get out of the way. They can't wait forever, obviously, but they have the decency to do it. So here's what's going to happen. Just as in 73, when that war was ended, the Yom Kippur War was ended, Israel had seized territory. When this war is over, Israel will have seized at least Gaza. Gaza will no longer belong to Hamas. They may be reduced to rubble, and they'll have a long time making it, inhabit worthy. But there'll be no more Hamas in Gaza. So Israel will grow. If the Iranian people, the Iranians have said, if Israel comes after us, now just hear me out for a minute here. The efforts are now being made and have been made. They've been sped up by the Biden administration in this Iran nuclear deal. But nobody, even the other sect of Muslims, because if the truth be told, Muslims killed more Muslims than anybody else. The Shias and the Sunnis fight one another violently to the death, and they killed each other more than somebody else kills them. So there are a sect of the Muslims themselves that don't want Iran to have nuclear capability, because they know as much as they'll use it on their enemy, they will also use it on them. Nuclear war. Right now, bomb shelters in the Soviet Union that have for a long time been laid silent have been reactivated. Students in colleges and universities are preparing, with these sirens going off in their nation, preparing them to move into bunkers that may afford survival for them in the wake of a nuclear event. I don't think it'll get there. In fact, I'm certain that it won't. But does the threat exist? It absolutely does. It absolutely does. Because Iran has said, if Israel attacks us, then we're going to call on our partners to come and defend us. Those partners will be Russia and China. Coming into the midst of that, America backs Israel if truly that is the case. This administration is so corrupt. You have to. It depends on what side of the nose that you're standing on, that you hear what comes out of their mouth, because they talk out of both sides of their mouth. But because America is a part of NATO, and NATO has signed an agreement, those nations, those fellowship of nations, that if one of them go to war, then the entirety of them will go to war. America has been NATO's cash cow until former President Trump got into office and started making them pull their weight and dump billions and billions of dollars back into the American economy. That's why things were going so well, because we had a leader at the helm who understood how to navigate and how to negotiate. We don't have such a person now. Hopefully that will change. So if America goes in as an active, not as a supplier, but as an active agency in the war, and there is a provocation, there is a provoking of America to come in as an active agent in the war, because American citizens were among those who were both killed and captured by Hamas. What will this leader do now? And if America goes in as an active participant in the war, then NATO must follow. Will a half-hearted NATO follow? Or will a full-hearted NATO that says we cannot allow this to happen follow in after America? And if that's the case, then all of Europe is engaged in that. Australia, Japan, we're looking in the face of a third world war. No, I don't think it'll get there. I don't think it will. Yes, you're right. We're not dealing with a dumb enemy. Well, yes, in one sense, he's totally ignorant that a created being thinks that he can disrupt God's rest, because God is finished. There's nothing the devil can do. There's nothing men can do. There's nothing any entity in the seen or unseen realm can do that will stop God's finished plan from working out. So how does this spell out for me and you? You need to do a couple of things. Get right with God. You and I. We need to do a couple of things. And the first one is get right with God. It's not about you. This is not about you. It's not about how much trouble or stress or situation that you may find yourself in. It's not about you. It is about the purpose and the plan of Almighty God. And that plan from God's omniscience definitely includes you as the individual. But when you focus on you and you forget God's plan, you put yourself in danger of not being able to fulfill your ordained part in God's plan. I don't want to be like that. I want my part. I want to fulfill my part. I want you to fulfill your part. Get right with God. When the prophet points a finger, 3 of them are pointing back at him. Let's get right with God. That's your response. Your other response is this: start understanding times. I want to recommend a couple of books to you. I'm going to end here. I was going to show you some video. I'll show it tomorrow night for those of you who will join us in our midweek service tomorrow. I'll show you a clip of NBC News where they're talking about the stuff they don't know about Shemitah years, but they do know. They mentioned 1973. Something happened in 1973 that's very similar to this. Even they don't know anything about God, but they're sensing into. They're starting to see this thing is repeating itself here. We're going to kind of unpack that, taking you all the way back to some historical events that took place in this nation, and what happened with the stock markets and what happens with money. Because remember, the Shemitah is the release. It's the release. The accounts were brought to zero. It affects economics. It affects production. It affects consumption. It affects supply. When it's a blessing, the people of God walk in obedience to God. All that's a blessing. When they don't, that becomes a judgment. The Shemitah becomes an instrument of judgment in the hand of God against a crooked nation. So what do we do now? One, get right with God. Two, I want to recommend a couple of books to you. One is both of them by the same author, Jonathan Cahn, Rabbi Jonathan Cahn. The books are called The Harbinger. In it, what he does in The Harbinger is he details 9 judgments that came to the nation of Israel before God allowed their enemies to come and overtake them. But those judgments were not heeded by the children of Israel, and consequently they went into captivity based on the Shemitah. They went into captivity for 70 years. And what he points out in The Harbinger is that as clear in detail as it was to the nation, the southern kingdom of Judah, those harbinger, the word harbinger means warning. Those warnings have started to show up in sequence, in the same sequence as they did in ancient Israel. They're starting to show up again in the United States. So what is the heart of the harbinger? The heart of the warning is repent. Warn your brothers and your sisters. Warn your neighbors and your friends, not in a panic, but in a solemnity, in a heart of concern. Warn them. And then thirdly, overflow with love. Overflow with love. Overflow with love. Love for God, love for people, love for God's people, and love for the world. For God so loved the world. Overflow with love. Let your love be without dissimulation. And let that be the savor that wafts up into the nostrils of the living God, is your love for him. I'll deal some more with that, but we're out of time. My producer tells me that I'm 20 minutes over. I wanted to cut some other stuff in there, but don't have time tonight. For those of you who will be in service with us tomorrow, this is not a ministry of Faith Outreach Center. SABWB is a standalone 501c3 organization. But tonight we're just speaking to you about some things that I'm going to finish in that other setting on tomorrow night. All right. God bless you. Love you big. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye now. Are you there?